Welcome back to California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Our guest is the president of Scripps College. Her name is Lori Bettison-Varga, and it is my pleasure to meet you. Scripps College, of course, is part of the Claremont Colleges, one of 5. It is a single-sex institution for women. Congratulations on joining Scripps about 4 years ago now.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm in my 4th year.
And so let's talk about Scripps before we talk about your focus, which is science. Tell me more about Scripps.
So Scripps is a women's college, as you said. We're one of 5 undergraduate institutions in the consortium. Long, well known, I think, in the Southern California area, but primarily because of arts and humanities, arts education.
Yes, no doubt about that. When we think about the Claremont College's Harvey Mudd is the science institution. Scripps is the outstanding humanities institution for women.
And that's what people have thought for a long time. But now, you know, 25% of our students will have science and math degrees at graduation.
And they're getting their degrees from Scripps. They're not
from
enrolling at Harvey Mudd.
No, they can take classes at all of the schools in the consortium. But we have our own science department. It's the WM Keck Science Department that we share with Pitzer and Claremont McKenna colleges.
I think I interviewed someone on that a couple months ago.
Right.
But let's talk about science, because you, Madam President, are a scientist. You are a geologist.
Yes.
And for better or for worse, we don't see a lot of women as scientists, let alone geologists.
No, that's right.
Let alone geologist scientists that are presidents of institutions.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Talk to me about your journey as a PhD in geology, and then what you'd like to do in terms of bringing that journey to other women.
Well, I started interest in science early on, but I didn't get connected to geology until I was in between my junior and senior years in high school. I went to Long Beach Poly High School.
Ah, of course, one of the finest.
Yes.
Yeah, still is.
The scholars and champions,
yes,
indeed.
Still is one of the finest.
So I was invited to apply for a National Science Foundation summer workshop at Long Beach City College in between my junior and senior years.
Now, how did that happen? Because let's face it, I mean, I think we're probably around the same age.
Yeah.
I don't think girls were being asked to apply for science grants.
You know,
I mean, I hate to say that.
I can't even tell you how I got invited, but I know it came across, you know, we got the mail at home and it was on earthquake studies. And I had been afraid of earthquakes, right? And so I thought, I'm going to do this, I'm going to learn about earthquakes, and I fell in love with the science, the geology. The professor took us up to UC Santa Barbara, and he took us out in the field.
And think about how that program changed your life.
Absolutely.
That one program, and that is my dream, not just for girls, but for boys. You know, but let's focus on girls for now, since I have 2 daughters, and it's all about girl power right now. But how can we create those magic moments for our daughters?
Well, you know, and I think there's a lot of talk about that right now, but it even goes above and beyond that. So imagine when you're out with your daughters, what do people say to them when they see them? Oh, look how pretty you are, how cute you are.
You're such a great dancer.
Exactly.
You've got beautiful hair.
Right, exactly. And Lisa Bloom, she's written a book about this.
Lori Allred's daughter.
Right, she's terrific on this. She says, you know, when I meet a girl, I say, what are you reading right now? What are you learning in science? What's your favorite class in school? Because the way that we, you know, interact with girls is how they develop their impression of themselves.
It's interesting. I have 2 athletic daughters, despite their gene pool.
Right.
Despite their gene pool. And
I'm sure you're good at that.
Oh, I don't know. But be that as it may, it is something that's interesting. I mean, even God bless my father doesn't quite know how to interact with an athletic girl.
Yeah. No, it's interesting.
It's a challenge. And as I mentioned to you, you know, 5th grade, 3rd grade, hard to get a sense of their interest, but I think it's fair to say my 5th grader is no doubt interested in science. I mean, I can hear it, I can feel it, I can taste it. But I feel inadequate.
Yeah, well, you need to get her involved in any kinds of experiences that are available. In fact, my daughter and I were having this conversation, and she's
a 9th grader?
She's a 9th grader, and she took part in a program sponsored by AAUW called Expanding Your Horizons, and it's only for 5th and 6th grade girls.
Can you please give me that information, because we need something for the summer?
Well, the interesting thing is it was a one-day event, and this was when we lived in Walla Walla, and
Washington State.
Yeah, exactly. And she said, "Mom, it transformed my thinking."
That's the magic moment.
So you just need that magic moment. And then, you know, it's not just having women role models, it's any mentor, male or female.
At the same time, you take a very different approach than I would have expected. You want your scientists, who happen to be women, also to be experts in humanities.
Absolutely.
Explain that, because that's an angle I haven't seen.
Well, so I think, and certainly liberal arts colleges believe that what they do, what our educational power is in critical thinking and clear communications, effective communications, are not argumentation, building a case, from the facts. And so all of our students take this interdisciplinary humanities core curriculum. And for me, I think the power for our science students is that they have a different way of thinking now about the implications of their work as scientists. They have a humanistic perspective about what it is that they're doing.
It's interesting. Steve Jobs, the legendary Steve Jobs, tell me about that. I have to admit, I didn't research this. Your grade 8 did. What did Steve Jobs tell us?
Well, he basically told us that the magic of Apple is that the innovation and creativity comes from a liberal arts mentality.
Of course, it's that simple. Okay, let's talk more about STEM and what we can do to continue that path. STEM, of course, is science, technology, engineering, and math.
Right.
Because what we're seeing with STEM, especially with our girls, is there's a pipeline, but it's leaking.
Right.
Explain the leaky pipeline concept.
So the leaky pipeline is that we lose more women as girls before they get to college, in college, from the point of graduating into retention in the field, they leak out of the career pipeline.
Why?
Well, I think there are several reasons. The first is that women still find science not to be particularly welcoming.
I have to admit that I probably agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm speaking with someone and what do you do? Oh, I'm an engineer, and it's a woman, I think, oh, that's interesting. And I consider myself fairly enlightened.
Well, I think the really interesting study most recently that came out was for a Yale study, and they looked at unconscious biases, right? So they sent out a CV of a recent science grad to research institutions and had the faculty respond to say, would they hire this person and what would the starting salary be? Oh, no. And what they found was if the CV was labeled as John, that John got selected over Jennifer more often than not and got offered a salary higher than Jennifer, even though the CV was exactly the same. And you know, the interesting thing is there was no correlation with gender, age of the professor, so even, tenure or not.
Even the woman human resources manager was dinging.
Well, no, not the resources manager, the actual faculty members in the sciences.
Oh, you're kidding.
So I think the point of that is how deeply ingrained it is in us, these gender schemas, the way we view.
Even women.
Yeah.
Even women have those biases as much as we try.
And it's shocking. I think when you first confront that even as a woman you might have that bias, it's a shocking
But at least
feeling.
we could admit it
Yes.
and work on it.
Yes.
In our final moments, Madam President, I want to get a sense from you about your views on single-sex education most generally, both before college and during college.
Well, certainly at college, we can tell you the Women's College Coalition has a lot of data on the fact that women from women's colleges graduate having had more leadership opportunities, more engaged in their studies, and more confident. Hillary Clinton, Madeleine Albright, Gabby Giffords, who's one of our alumni.
Oh, how is that?
Gabby's doing well.
Right.
Gabby and Mark doing well. Right. But certainly more confident in their ability to move forward. And certainly in the sciences, the retention in science is higher for women from women's colleges.
Really?
Than
so that leaky pipeline leaks less?
Absolutely. And this is true for women who graduate from girls' high schools.
So let's talk about that, high schools, because I mentioned to you, I'm struggling. Should I send my daughters to a single-sex high school or junior high school for that matter?
Well, and I think in high school it's really a critical time, right? Because if they're with other women and other girls in a science classroom, they're less worried about how they're coming across socially. Are they going to be labeled by a guy in the class as aggressive, assertive, smarty pants, a nerd, right? Whatever it is. So I think that environment is particularly powerful, and there's some really good work on this by Linda Sachs at UCLA. She talks about this, and great work out of London on this as well.
It has been my honor to have met the president of Scripps College. Her name is Lori Bettison-Varga, and thank you so much for what you're doing for the women, the girls, the men of America. My name is Brad Pomerance. When we come back, we'll be speaking with Nancy Hart, a female councilwoman from the city of Riverside. I'm Brad Pomerance. We'll be right back on Charter California Edition.